Some economic projections predict a recession in the United States is effectively certain in the next 12 months. And this comes as a blow to President Joe Biden's economic messaging ahead of the November midterms. The latest Fitch ratings serves as a warning. It says stubborn inflation and Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes will drive the American economy into a 1990-style recession starting in the spring, which means the United States recession could be less than 6 months away. Fitch slashed its US growth forecast for 2022 and 2023 due to one of the most aggressive inflation-fighting campaigns by the Federal Reserve in history. Fitch says that US GDP is now expected to grow by just 0.5% next year, down from 1.5% from the June forecast. According to Fitch ratings, high inflation will hit household incomes hard. The forecast adds to the growing fear among many investors and economists. However, Fitch says the next recession may not be nearly as destructive as the last two major ones. The Great Recession, which began in late 2007, was the worst downturn since the Great Depression. The COVID recession beginning in early 2020 caused the unemployment rate to skyrocket to nearly 15%. The forecast also sees the unemployment rate rising from just 3.5% today to 5.2% in 2024. That translates to the loss of millions of jobs, but not nearly as many as those lost during the prior two recessions. Fitch says the next recession will likely be broadly similar to the one that started in July 1990 and ended in March 1991. Much like today, the 1990 recession occurred after the Fed scrambled to fight inflation by rapidly raising interest rates. Likewise, that downturn was preceded by a war fueled by oil shock. Back then, it was Iraq's invasion of Kuwait that drove US gasoline and energy prices. Today, it's the Russian invasion of Ukraine that's pushed up energy and food prices. Politically, the 1990 to 1991 recession hurt the political fortune of then American President George H.W. Bush. This time, it's Joe Biden under the spotlight. Now, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani joins us live from New York. Susan, thank you so much for being with us. So just how damaging is this for Democratic messaging ahead of the midterms?
Yeah, as you mentioned, extremely damaging and contradictory to President Joe Biden's upbeat messaging, but also for many American voters. The president, notably in recent days after saying that the economy is strong as hell whilst holding an ice cream cone in California, it seems that the Democrats and the president himself seem to be out of touch with the majority of Americans. Remember, when we see reports like this one after the other, and Bloomberg is pretty reputable, but we have other parameters as well coming out and saying that Americans tend to wonder, then am I doing anything wrong if the president is saying that the economy is doing well? And it sort of brings confidence lower amongst, individuals themselves, giving a bad feelings about themselves and wanting to do more, and then seeing that the more they do, again, they're not really making ends meet and going to the grocery store, and then things aren't adding up as well. So it's also that aspect of it, the psychological aspect of it, where it's almost like gaslighting the American people, not telling them the truth, and then also saying, don't believe your lying eyes. It's interesting that this Bloomberg report that came out, while it says that the 12-month forecast has reached 100%, we're 100% going to be in a recession in the next 12 months. The model also forecasts the likelihood of an 11-month recession to 73%, which it hadn't done before, and 30% in the next 10 months. That rose dramatically, and just a year ago, that 30% was 0%. So we can see, how forecasts are dramatically changing. How many economists are saying that, that soft landing that many people were talking about is really out the window, and we really need to buckle up. And then you have a White House and an administration that's looking at you in the eye and saying, you know, everything's going to be okay, the economy is strong. So the optics of it, not good at all. And going into the midterms and even 2024, not a good sign for the Democrats, definitely.
Susan, absolutely. And of course, with the midterms just a few weeks away, this will be absolutely pivotal and fascinating to see how it'll play in the minds of voters. Susan, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for being with us. That was our New York correspondent, Susan Tehrani.